Hello everyone, Michael Persley here, along with my sous chef, Sandy, my wife, who you've met before.
Hello.
Today we're going to be making Pflugerville Coffee House oatmeal cookies. It's a recipe that we've had in our family for a while, and I hope you'll enjoy it too. So, one of the first things we want to do as we get started is you want to go ahead and start your oven at 325. That way the oven's ready for us when we're ready to go. The other thing we have found that is really helpful is to have all of your ingredients out and pre-measured before you start going ahead and you're mixing. It just makes life so much easier. So what we're going to need to get started is 1 1/2 sticks of butter, 1 cup firmly packed brown sugar, 1/2 cup granulated white sugar, 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and we prefer the Mexican vanilla. We just feel it has a better flavor to it. 1 1/2 cups all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon baking powder, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 2 3/4 cups old-fashioned oats uncooked, 1 cup craisins, and we like to have them kind of roughly chopped because they can be kind of big, and 1 cup of chopped pecans. So the first thing we want to do is go ahead and get our butter and both of our sugars. We want to beat them together until they're creamy. We're using the whisk on the beater first. So we'll go ahead and lock that in place. And we'll start out slow, just to help it to get mixed together a little bit. And we'll increase the speed, because again, we want it to get nice and creamy. And you probably have to, as in this case, we need to stop it and go ahead and clean the whisk out a little bit. Get that butter out from the inside of it. Go ahead and start that again. We're going to increase the speed and get that up to about a medium speed, and that way again we want to get this nice and creamy before we add any of the other mixtures. Sometimes you have to scrape down the sides, but in this case it's staying down in there nice, so we don't have to worry about that. So it's still beating, starting to get to that point where it's nice and creamy. And in a little bit, we're going to go ahead and add our eggs and our vanilla. It's starting to look pretty good in there right now. Unfortunately, I don't have a camera that is on the ceiling so that you can see it. But this is starting to look just about the way we want it. Go ahead and scrape out the just a little bit more time for that. Now I think we're ready to go ahead and put the eggs and the vanilla in while this is heating. The eggs and the vanilla. So we'll slow this down a little bit. Go ahead and add our vanilla. And then go ahead and add our eggs. We like to add them one at a time. Again, we want to make sure that this gets nice and creamy before we add any of the dry ingredients. You just want to scrape down the side a little bit to get some of the dry stuff down in there. I think that actually is looking pretty good right now. So at this point, we want to go ahead and get our dry ingredients, and we want to mix them together in a separate bowl. here's our flour, and again, this is 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, our baking soda and our baking powder, our cinnamon, and our salt. We want to go ahead and give them a little bit of a stir together, just to have them mixed up. And again, we want to add these very slowly as we go. So we want to go ahead and start slow. Oh, that's right, I almost forgot. We need to go ahead and change out our whisk for the paddle. Clean that off just a little bit. Thank you. Get that back into place. Put that down and lock that. We want to go ahead and start real slow, and this will take a little bit. Adding the flour. You want to make sure that the flour gets mixed in there, not thrown out all over your kitchen. And as we go along, you want to increase the speed just a little bit. You can hear the motor starting to bog down just a little bit. This goes in fairly well, fairly easy. And again, we want to mix this until it's nice and creamy. Just takes a few minutes. I like to go ahead and take a little bit of time and just scrape down the sides just a little bit to make sure that we got all of those ingredients nice and mixed up, which I believe we have. So our next step is to go ahead and add our nuts and our craisins. And again, we'll go ahead and start nice and slow. Add our nuts. And down here in Texas, we use pecans. Some of you up north may want to use walnuts or something a little bit different. I'd like to add our craisins. We want to increase our speed just a little bit. As again, it starts to thicken up a little bit and it starts to bog the motor down. And then last but not least are our oats. Again, you want to make sure that everything's beat up nice and mixed very well. And at this point, we are done mixing. So we'll clean the paddle off a little bit. We don't want to waste any of this nice dough. We'll take the paddle off. Release our bowl from the mixer. If I can do that, put it on. I should be able to get it off. There we go. And then on the cookie sheet, and we line our cookie sheets with parchment paper. It's just easier for cleanup. Is we have a 1 tablespoon scoop, and we like to have rounded tablespoons here, and just put them on the cookie sheet. And you can get about 15 or so cookies on this cookie sheet. They don't have to be perfect, but you want them pretty much the same size, just so that they'll all cook evenly. That one's a little small. We'll just make that a little bit bigger, and we'll add a little bit here. And you know, depending on the size that you make the cookies, you'll get maybe 3-4 dozen cookies out of this batch. And many times, what we'll do is make a double batch. That way we can freeze some and have some for a little bit later. So we're getting them on the cookie sheet here. And we've got about 15 of them on in there. And we're going to go ahead and put them in the oven. And in our oven, they take about 12 to 14 minutes. It just depends. Your ovens may be a little bit different. And it's possible that those of you that live in the higher altitudes, that it may change just a little bit. So we'll go ahead and put these in the oven. We'll set the timer for about we'll do it for about 12 minutes and see what happens. And through the magic of television, we have some already made. And you want to leave these on the cookie sheet for about 3 minutes for them to cool off a little bit, and then transfer them over to a drying rack. That way they can dry completely. And these are the Pflugerville Coffee House cookies. They are really good. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Yum.